Hey boys and girls, how are you today? I want to ask you a question. Who's a Christian? What does it mean to be a Christian? We talk a lot at church about being a Christian. In fact, we want everybody to be Christians, and we talk a lot about it. But do you know what it means? What does it mean to be a Christian? I want to talk about that today because it's really important, and I want to make sure that we all know what it means to be a Christian. Sometimes, when you ask someone, hey, what is a Christian? They might tell you, oh, well, a Christian is someone who knows a lot of facts about God. Or maybe they would tell you, oh, I know what a Christian is. A Christian is someone who does a bunch of good things. You know, they're really nice, they share a lot, they use good words. But is that what it means to be a Christian? Are you a Christian if you just know a bunch of stuff about God? Or if you're a pretty nice person who does good things like sharing and using kind words, does that make you a Christian? Well, the answer is no. That's actually not what it means to be a Christian. Knowing facts about God is really important and really good, and you should learn everything you can about God because He's your creator. He's the maker of this world, and He is perfect and awesome and worth knowing. And you should do good things. It's awesome to be kind, to use encouraging words, to share. But that stuff, it doesn't make you a Christian. So what does? What makes someone a Christian? I'm glad you asked. It's really important, and we're going to talk about it today. We're going to go to the Bible, and we're going to look at Acts 9. And in Acts 9, we meet someone, a guy named Saul. You might know him by another name he went by, Paul, the Apostle Paul. Have you ever met someone who's named William, but they go by Will? It's pretty normal for someone to have a couple different names. And Paul, Saul, we'll call him Paul though, the Apostle Paul, we meet him here in Acts 9. And when we meet him, he's not a Christian yet. He was a Jewish guy. He was a leader of the Jewish people at this point in his life. He was what's called a Pharisee. You might remember them from the stories in the Gospels where Jesus talked to Pharisees. They were religious leaders. They knew a lot of facts about God. In fact, it's most likely that the Apostle Paul had the whole Old Testament memorized. Yeah, you heard me. Not just a couple verses, the whole thing. He did a lot of stuff that on the outside looked pretty good. He followed a lot of the instructions that God had in His Word. But Paul, when we meet him here in Acts 9, he hadn't become a Christian yet. He was trying to make God love him by knowing facts and doing good things. And he was going around to other people and he was saying, hey, if you want God to love you, you need to know all the facts I know about the Bible, and you need to do this big list of good things. And that's how you'll make God love you. And if people wouldn't listen to him, he did stuff like put him in jail. Check this out. In Acts 9, chapter 1, we see, but Saul, or Paul, he was breathing threats and murder against the disciples of Jesus. He went to the high priest, the leader of all the Jewish people, and he asked him for letters or permission to go to the synagogues, the places where Jewish people met, in a city called Damascus, so that if he found anyone who belonged to the way of Jesus, anyone who followed Jesus, men or women, he might put them in some handcuffs or some chains and bring them to Jerusalem to go to jail. So Paul, he went around and he said, hey, everybody better know the facts I know. Everybody better do the stuff I do. If not, God won't love you. You have to do what I say. You have to make God love you. Paul was going around doing that. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound very good to me. Yeah, it's not, is it? No, it's not. So Paul was going around. And before Paul became a Christian, Paul thought that what it meant to have a right relationship with God was to know all the right stuff and to do a bunch of good things, to, follow a bunch of rules. Now, here's the thing. Paul had one thing right. Paul knew that God made the whole world. He's made you, he's made me. He made all of us to have a good relationship with him. Now, we've all disobeyed God. It's called sin. And our disobedience has separated us from God, His goodness and His life. And the consequence is that we die, not just that our heart stops beating, but that we're separated from God's goodness and life forever. Paul knew that. And Paul knew that we needed to be back in a right relationship with God. The question was, how do we get there? And before Paul became a Christian, he thought that the way you had a good relationship with God was by knowing all the right facts and doing a bunch of good things. Paul thought, I can make God love me if I work hard enough. That's how I have a good relationship with God. But boys and girls, that's not how it works. We can't make God love us. We can't do enough good things. Now, understand, knowing stuff about God is great. And we should do good stuff. It's important. But that's not what makes God love us. We don't have a good relationship with him. We don't have forgiveness of our sins because of what we do. Being a Christian, or someone who has a good relationship with God, a right relationship with God, it's about what Jesus has done for us and us trusting in Jesus. Let's keep reading. As Paul was going on his way, he's on his donkey, he's riding along. He approaches the city of Damascus where he was going to go. And all of a sudden, a bright light shone from heaven all around him. Have you ever had a flashlight in your eyes? It's blinding and he couldn't see. And he fell to the ground. And he heard a voice saying, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? He freaked out. Where's this voice coming from? I can't see anything. There's such a bright light. And Paul said, hey, who are you? Who are you, Lord? What's going on? And you know what? The response that voice said, it was Jesus talking to Paul. Jesus said, hey, I'm Jesus. I'm talking to you. I'm Jesus, the guy that you're persecuting. When you're taking the people who follow me and putting them in jail and telling them that they're wrong for following me and hurting them, man, you're persecuting me. You're hurting me. I want you to rise up and enter the city, and there you're going to be told what to do. Paul, you can't keep doing this. Jesus came to Paul and let Paul know that being a Christian, being someone who has a right relationship with God, it's not about doing enough good things. It's not about having all the right facts. Jesus comes and says, Paul, you need to knock it off, man. You need to knock it off because what you need to do is trust me. So here's what happens. Paul goes into the city and he's there for 3 days. And he can't see for 3 days. He doesn't eat or drink. And then God sends someone, another follower of Jesus named Ananias. Ananias goes and talks to Paul, prays with him. And then Paul starts to follow Jesus. And here's what we learn from Paul's life. That having the right facts about God or doing a bunch of good stuff, that's not what makes you forgiven of your disobedience. And it's not what gives you a right relationship with God. When Jesus met Paul, Jesus let him know that the way we're forgiven of our sin or our disobedience is by trusting in Jesus. You see, boys and girls, Jesus is perfect. He's the only one who's never disobeyed. Paul tried to do good stuff, but there were times where he sinned. And the same is true for you and me. We've all sinned. Jesus hasn't. And Jesus died on the cross in our place. And then he came back to life because he's so amazing. And because Jesus has lived perfectly and died in our place and come back to life, if we trust him, if we ask him to forgive us for our disobedience, he will. And he will make our relationship with him right again. Because remember, Jesus is all the way man and all the way God. We can have a right relationship with God because of what Jesus has done to make it possible for us to be forgiven. What does it mean to be a Christian? You know what Jesus tells Paul? To be a Christian, to be someone who's got a right relationship with God, it's about trusting in Jesus. Now, Jesus and trusting in him, it's not something you do just once. We do it with our whole lives every day. So here's what I want you to know. Do you know facts about God? Awesome. Those are great. Are you doing good things? Cool. Keep that up. Keep doing good things. Keep sharing and using encouraging words. But I want you to know, you can't make God love you by doing that stuff. Your right relationship with God and forgiveness of your sin comes from Jesus. Jesus is awesome, and he's the one who loves you. And you can have a right relationship with God because of what Jesus has done. So what does it mean to be a Christian? A Christian is someone who trusts in Jesus, just like Paul did. When Paul met Jesus, he realized, hey, I can't make God love me. God loves me because he's good, and he has a right relationship with me because of what Jesus has done. Paul turned away from disobeying God and started trusting in Jesus. And that's when Paul became a Christian. What about you? Are you a Christian? A Christian, being a Christian, it means trusting in Jesus. Have you trusted in Jesus to forgive you of your disobedience and make you have a right relationship with God again? If not, what are you waiting for? Talk to your parents or talk to me. We want to help you know Jesus and trust in him. Now remember, knowing facts about God, always awesome. Doing good stuff, always a great idea. But don't think that you can make God love you by trying hard enough to be a good person. Being a Christian, having a right relationship with God, comes by God's goodness and grace to us through faith in Jesus. God gives us the gift of a right relationship with him when we trust in Jesus. Boys and girls, I want you to be Christians. And what that means is that you trust in Jesus. Do you? I hope so. Talk to me or your parents if you don't know what it means, or if you're not one yet. But know that a Christian, they're someone who trusts in Jesus. That's what Paul's life teaches us. Have a great day.